A whole new season of the British GT Championship kicks off this weekend at Oulton Park under gloriously sunny skies. It is a monster entry. It is dripping with not only star drivers and star teams, but fantastic cars as well. What a change 12 months makes from a rather wet Oulton for the opening rounds last year to a very hot and sunny day indeed. And indeed, such is the size of the entry that the traditional pit window has had to be staggered now. So you have one window for the GT3 and the GTC cars and another for GT4. We have, of course, one driver starting an individual race based on their qualifying efforts. So who starts this will finish the second race, and it really is wide open. Oulton Park is not the widest of circuits, which in itself throws in a fair few imponderables. It could well turn out to be a bruising race, but come what may, it is going to be full of drama, that is for sure. David Addison, Andy McEwen and GT ace David Pittard trackside looking forward to what promises to be an absolutely gripping first round of the championship. And Andy, we've got some new teams, some new cars, some new driver combinations. As I say, it's almost like sticking a pin in the entry list in terms of finding a winner, isn't it?
What I love about this is for the last few seasons, we've always had a vague idea whenever we turn up at a different circuit. Oh, well, this is traditionally a good Aston Martin circuit. This is traditionally a good BMW circuit. Now we have no idea. In GT3 alone, there is only one car on the entry list returning from previous seasons, which is the Ram Racing Mercedes. Everybody else, it is a blank canvas. Brand new car, either new to the UK, new to the championship, new to the team. We really don't know who's going to come out on top, and it's similar in GT4.
Indeed, and having said it's a mouth-watering grid, who better to talk us through the grid itself, indeed savouring the opportunity to be in and amongst the cars. But Andy J.
Oh, David, that check's coming your way. That was absolutely glorious. Okie dokie, now then, here we are. I have never known sunshine like this at Oulton Park before. It is absolutely fabulous, if perhaps a little too hot. I'm going to be roaming the grids as the cars come out and see who we can chat to. But I just want to point out, if you can see over my shoulder, there's a dinosaur over there. Can you see that? I mean, I thought it was Oulton Park. It turns out we're actually racing around Jurassic Park. How fun is that? Now, we're starting off. Let's just head over to pole, shall we, and see if we can find a driver by the Mercedes, because this is terrific. To see a Mercedes on pole at Oulton Park in the sunshine, that's something a bit great. Let's see if Callum's available. I'll just see if I can touch him on the shoulder and hope for the best. Callum, can I grab a couple of quick words for you? First and foremost, first race of the British GT season. You're starting on pole in the sunshine. How are you feeling?
Yeah, pretty good. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better start to the weekend for us. I think we've looked good on our race pace, so we'll find out a bit more in the next hour, but we're quite hopeful.
You're cool as a cucumber right now. I thought you'd be a little bit more energised, shall we say?
No, it's good.
I mean nervous, that's what I mean.
Yeah, well, trust me, the nerves are there, but I can't do anything about it for at least 22 minutes. So we'll let Ian start and hopefully have a good, clean opening stint. And then I'll jump in and see where we're at.
I mean, he knows what to do, of course, but presumably you've given him a few pointers for that first turn, have you?
Yeah, I mean, look, we've worked really hard the whole winter, covering every aspect we think we need to. The start is certainly one of those. The proof will be what happens in about 10 minutes' time, but hopefully we're prepared.
All right, good stuff. Thank you very much. Good luck. Enjoy it.
Thank you.
I'll see you later on. I'll tell you what, guys, I'll see who else I can find, but I'll throw back to you for a sec, OK?
Thanks, Andy. So you've heard from Callum MacLeod. His co-driver, Ian Logie, will start. Now, David Pittard, this is effectively the race that the AMS or the lower graded driver starts. These are guys that run a desk in the week and race a car at the weekends. The pressure is on, isn't it, for them?
Well and truly. I mean, this is the highest level of GT racing in the UK, so they are by no means amateurs, even though they are deemed them. They are, when you put it down to it, they're only a second or two off of their pro counterparts, which is an incredible feat as much as it has. But some of these pro drivers, they will have got 3 or 4 races under their belt already this year. This is probably going to be their first races for the AMS, so they might be a little bit race rusty. There may be a couple of mistakes that happen. Out of all the testing and mileage that they can do over the winter, you can never quite simulate a race run. So this is really going to test everything that they've worked on over the winter. But yeah, throw a set of headlights in the rearview mirror and let's see how they react.
One of the things that's always been a discussion point in Pro-Am, in quotes, GT racing, is user-friendly cars. We'll come to that in a second, because there are some cars that work better perhaps in AM's hands than others. I'm intrigued though by this dinosaur on the grid. I think Andy is equally fascinated.
I'm having a lovely time. Yeah, it's great fun. I'm not sure that it's it's necessarily calming the driver's nerves, though, shall we say. Are you finding that the dinosaur is helping or really throwing you?
No, it's all right. He's helping a little bit, probably.
It's settling you down. You start in P2, which is a cracking result, I would say. How are you feeling? Does the car feel good? Are you feeling ready for it?
Yeah, no, P2 Ryan did a mega job in the qualifying yesterday or Saturday for P2, but we've done lack of testing and lack of new tyre runs, so unfortunately for the second race we're further down, but if we get a good start here, and we should get a decent result in the first race.
And the Bentley Continental, it is wide, meaning tough to pass. Have you got plans for that first corner?
Tough to pass, but also we're not the strongest in the straight line here as well, so it's good if we've got straight line speed. Nobody's getting past, but we're going to struggle a little bit straight line, but corner wise we're getting up to scratch with it now, and it is getting quicker. It's just a long process.
So you say you're not great in straight lines but good on corners. From memory, Oulton's got quite a few corners. This should favour you, shouldn't it?
It should favour. I think last time we raced here was 2011, and so it was a bit of a shock coming back and seeing how quick it was again. Kind of forgot how quick it was, but no, I think once we get settled into the race, and then we'll grow, and every time we're in the car we're getting quicker as well. So
good stuff. Enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you.
David, I'm going to wander again, so I'll just throw back to you and see who else I can find. Okay.
Thanks, Andy. So yes, more patrol. David, let's just go back to this question about user-friendly cars for the AMs. There are some that are easier for the amateur driver than others, aren't there?
Yes, but I think touching what Andy said earlier on, I would be able to comment on that. But there's a lot of new cars to these these common drivers, so it'll be interesting, to see how they handle. The Ram Racing Mercedes on pole position, clearly, even though it's a continuous manufacturer to the championship, that is a new car for both Callum and Ian, and it's great to see that they've debuted the car on pole position. It's a great job by Ian in amateur qualifying. Aston Martins are the most successful brand in the championship, which has relied on Pro-Am, so that shows it's an AM-friendly car, but again, it's a new car, so it'll be interesting to see how that runs as well. So yeah, I must admit, I'm a little bit stumped at the moment. I'll tell you in an hour.
I was going to say, yes, we'll know in a bit. But also, you've got GT4, 2 races in one. You're looking at the GT3 Bentley there, number 31. That's going to be started by Rick Parfitt Jr., but 2 races, because GT4 will be a very fierce fight in itself. And Andy, we've got some new cars, new drivers, new combinations in there, including these omnipotent Ford Mustangs that have set tongues alight over the weekend thus far.
Haven't they just? Yes, they've locked out the front row of the grid with 15 ahead of 19, the 2 Multimatic Motorsport cars. They've been given a little bit of extra ballast, I believe, since Saturday. The BOP is being tweaked, as is often the case earlier in the season. So we'll wait and see whether they can continue that form in the races today. Let's head back down to the grid, though. Andy, who have you found?
Well, I've raced down to the front of the GT4, and how cool does this look? We've got 2 Mustangs sitting on the front row at GT4. This is seriously cool, almost as cool as this guy. I got Chad with me. Chad, I mean, what a moment. Right at the front of the GT4 pack, and it's a double Mustang special.
Yeah, you know, Multimatic and Ford have gave us such a great platform to work for with our Mustang GT4, and we're obviously new to this and soaking it all up and see what happens here and hope for a great result.
I mean, you guys look seriously quick. What's the secret?
You know, no secret. I think that we've just got a great car to work from, and this track fits our car really well. Also, a lot of high-speed stuff. The Mustang has many strengths, and hopefully we can finish it off. We're not 100% sure how the race will play out, being our first event. But it's been a great experience so far. It's been a learning experience. This isn't an easy racetrack to get a hold of and learn very quickly. So it's been a long few days for us trying to get to this point. But let's see what happens.
Are you exceeding expectations already?
You always set expectations high, right? But I think that this is exactly what we're coming to hope to do. Is showcase what the Mustang can do, and but it's not over till the checkered flag falls. So we need to see how the thing races and how it works in traffic, and go from there.
Got it. Chad, thank you. We have to clear the grid because it's basically time to get on the race. By the way, Chad isn't really American. He's just putting that accent on. I'm only kidding, mate. Guys, back to you, because it's pretty much time to get out of here.
And so we look forward to what promises to be an absolutely stonking first round of the British GT Championship, the roots of which go all the way back to 1993, when the British Racing Drivers Club started what was then called the National Sports GT Challenge. It began at Donington Park. It was a modest grid, all of Porsches. SRO, the Stefan Rattel organisation, took it over in 2004, and how it has blossomed with GT3 and GT4 making for this mega entry. One car missing because it wasn't ready in time. One has been withdrawn after electrical problems. That was the Balfe Motorsport McLaren. But even so, the grid is formed, and there's going to be so much to look at. And we keep making the point, it's virtually wide open, this, because you've got so much that is new, including there the McLaren 570S GT4 of Jordan Collard, younger of Rob Collard's two sons. He will share with Lewis Proctor. And the car's then good to go. That's the onboard view from the 42 Century Motorsport BMW. Mark Kimber will go first with Jakob Mathieson as the co-driver. And Andy, GT4 is going to be as fierce a fight as outright for GT3 honours, isn't it? As is often the case, and quite often the fascination in these races, particularly here at Oulton Park, is when the two groups of cars sort of find themselves together, and lappery will become a factor as we go on. But yes, GT4 incredibly competitive. The McLarens were very quick last year, the Aston Martins equally so. The difference this year is that in GT4, McLaren is in its second season of racing in the championship, but it's a new Aston Martin in GT4 as well. So how quickly will those Aston Martin teams sort of, will they hit the ground running here at this first race, and will they be on the pace with the McLarens from the early stages? Of course, it was BMW who came out on top in GT4 last year, Century Motorsport, and they've got 4 new drivers in their GT4 cars, so it's all change across both classes. And one of the opposition, GT4 HHC Motorsport, defecting from Ginetta to McLaren. Still early in the development of this project knitting together, but it's been a very impressive start as the green flag is waved then to get the formation lap for this rolling start underway. Ryan Ratcliffe's Bentley eventually gets going, but was a little bit reluctant, I think, to do so. So that's going to just need to play catch up a little bit as the cars then work their way down towards Old Hall Corner. It's a rolling start, so they don't stop on the grid again. The Bentleys that you'll see are the new generation introduced last year, second generation Bentley Continental GT3s. But I tell you, as the cars go past our commentary box on the inside of Old Hall Corner, all three of us are drooling, because this is some entry. David's trying to work out which car he'd rather be racing, but I mean, this is an awesome lineup, David, isn't it?
I definitely want to race the BMW M6s, obviously, because that's what I've been racing for the past year and a bit. Indeed. But yeah, the noise, the spectacle, the sound, the fans are out, the weather's out, it's going to be a good day of racing. Absolutely right. So down through Cascades, there you can see the HHC Motorsport McLarens that run in GT4. You've got the Optimum Motorsport Aston Martins in there as well. There is the Jaguar F-Type for Major Steve McCulley and Matty George, that's the Invictus Motorsport Jaguar. This is how the grid lines up. The start drivers here you will see captioned. It's Ian Logie and Ryan Ratcliffe at the front, Mercedes and Bentley respectively on the second row of the grid. There'll be Sam DeHaan with the Barwell Lamborghini lining up alongside Rick Parfitt with the JRM Racing Bentley. On the third row, Century Motorsports BMW M6. Dominic Paul will go first. Adam Ballard moving up from GT4 to GT3 for Barwell with the Lamborghini for company. Then the hugely experienced Adrian Wilmot, who was racing here in the mid-80s in Formula Ford. He's got Mark Farmer, a race winner last year alongside. So you've got BMW and Aston Martin on the fourth row of the grid. On the fifth row, there will be Richard Neary, local man, lining up alongside Graham Davidson's Aston Martin for TF Sport, alongside the Team ABBA Racing Mercedes. Behind them, Ollie Wilkinson for Optimum Motorsport, and former champion Andrew Howard with the Beechdean Dairy Ice Cream backed Aston Martin. Then it is Michael Igoe to round out the GT3 part of the grid. Scott Maxwell is on the GT4 pole position, so he will have Jade Buford lining up alongside him. Dean McDonald is next in the first of the two HHC Motorsport McLarens. Tom Jackson lines up alongside him. Then you've got Jordan Collard and Patrick Kibble next on the grid. Mark Kimber for Century Motorsport with the BMW M4 will be next. Then Alex Toth-Jones and James Dorling, Academy Motorsport, Tolman Motorsport, the teams operating the Aston Martin and McLaren respectively. Then actor Kelvin Fletcher lining up alongside Ginetta G40 graduate Conor O'Brien next. There's Andrew Gordon-Colebrook for Century lining up alongside Ben Hurst next on the grid. Touring car and Clio graduate Ash Hand is next. Then you've got Mark Murfitt. Steve McCulley will be in the Invictus Jaguar next, and rattling through the back of the grid. Sam Smelt moving from the BTCC into GT cars alongside Patrick Mathieson, with Mike McCollum, Nick Jones, and then Graham Johnson in the Balfe McLaren 570S, the GT4 car, at the very back of the grid. That briskly takes you through who you can anticipate to see. And as they come through Lodge Corner then, the first of two one-hour races at Oulton Park is about to get underway. British GT for 2019. Hold on to your hats. This is quite an entry. You can see the two grids, GT3 ahead of GT4.
two great races to look for, and the first round of the championship is go as they storm over the line down towards Old Hall Corner. On the inside line, the Mercedes, it is Ian Loggy that will grab the advantage to try to go around the outside. Ryan Ratcliffe, Sam DeHaan goes third in the Lamborghini as they pour downhill for the first time, but it's a good getaway then by Ian Loggy from pole position. Ryan Ratcliffe has a cheeky look going down towards Cascades, but Andy, there was no way through.
No, a bit of contact between the two Aston Martins I noticed a bit further back as well. That won't go down particularly well. Mark Farmer in his TF Sport car making a small collision, I think, with the other TF Sport machine as well, but they're both safely through in the end. The Beach Dean car right behind them as well, onto the brakes through the Shell hairpin, and good start made by Rick Parfitt there, up a position from 4th to 3rd. But most significantly, despite a bit of paint being traded, I think, in both classes, they are all safely through the first half a lap.
And David Pittard, this is tough, of course, because even though it's a rolling start, you're on cold tyres for the moment.
Yeah, I mean, track temps are up. The sun has been out all day, so I don't think they'll struggle as much as they have done in previous years. But no, clean starts so far by everyone. Very close grid formations that then. I was a little bit worried about the GT4 field, but no, fair play to the guys. They're obviously not that race rusty.
So far, so good then, as they wriggle their way out of Knickerbrook for the first time. On board here with number 42, it's Mark Kimber. You can see in the body of the field within that GT4 scrap then as they head uphill. So the race leader, Ian Loggy, doing his level best to get away, but going with him is Ryan Ratcliffe, experienced drivers both. And then up into 3rd place has come one of the many champions that we've got on the grid, Rick Parfitt. So the British driver in 3rd spot. He comes from a good musical stock, of course, but he's no mean race driver himself. And those three come over the line. The gap widening, isn't it, between them as there. Ratcliffe looks to the inside line. Couldn't take full advantage of that, so it's Ian Loggy just in the lead. But Ryan Ratcliffe now, David, is giving him a workover.
Yes, so Ian is a classified bronze driver. Brian is a classified silver driver. So he's going to have technically the advantage initially in being a little bit more experienced than Ian. So he's looking to really get past Ian and then make a move from then on.
Got a yellow flag being waved at Old Hall Corner, and that's because we've lost somebody, I fear, from that GT3 it is.
Yeah,
it's the Aston. Yeah, Mark Farmer, who's gone all over the grass, so he's back onto the road. But Andy, this lead battle now is getting ever more intense. Ryan Ratcliffe, I get the feeling, wants to be ahead. He thinks he can build a lead here.
Yeah, he is one of the two silver-silver driver combos in GT3, as David was alluding to. What that means is that that Bentley is 30 kilos heavier than that Bentley, which is a traditional Pro-Am driver lineup. They don't have to serve an extra pit stop penalty, but the cars are significantly heavier. Not really holding back. Oh, no! Contact by Ratcliffe into the back of the Ian Loggy machine, and that was a little unnecessary. I fear they're both going to be pointing the wrong way and handing the race lead to Rick Parfitt, but that was drama on the 2nd lap of the season, and Ryan Ratcliffe went for a move that did not work.
I was about to say, Ryan Ratcliffe is being warned about respecting track limits. Well, David, now we've got Loggy in the middle of the road, mayhem down at Hislops. Was that move on or not?
I think that Ryan, it's some sort of ABS issue, because you see he just snatches a brake, which shouldn't happen on these cars.
Oh, that's Mark Farmer.
And as a result, threw it to the inside to stop him from completely rear-ending Ian, but as a result, wiped him out anyways.
This is going to be a safety car, isn't it, if we can't get people out of the way. The safety car is being deployed. Peter Daly, who's the clerk of the calls for the safety car. Ian Loggy tried to spin it around and rejoin, and then I think stalled it and has got stuck. And Mark Farmer, who'd already had one off, suddenly arrives and finds the road blocked, and he was the one that trips into the side. Ian Loggy never has a lot of luck here. Remember, a couple of years ago, his Bentley was destroyed at Hilltop. So the safety car is going to be deployed. That will bunch up everybody. He'll come out at the end of this next lap. So the boards are there, everybody slows. There is Ryan Ratcliffe limping on. So from what David is saying, given the benefit of the doubt, it may not have been a driver error, but he's certainly out of the race because now he's got this suspension breakage. Yeah,
I mean, it was a big hit, wheel-to-wheel contact. It looks like it's destroyed the front left suspension of the Bentley and the rear right suspension of the Mercedes. So, yeah, Ian did a good job to spin it round, but I think there was just no drive beyond then, hence why he was then marooned in the middle of the circuit. Fair play to the rest of the grid for avoiding him as well as they did.
And there you can see how much room there isn't now going down through the sequence of corners at Hislops. So, huge frustration. This at least helps Mark Farmer, doesn't it? Because he can play catch-up and stay on the lead lap. But the safety car is deployed. And Ryan Ratcliffe has dragged it so far back and then abandoned ship, really a corner away from the pit lane.
Yeah, realising perhaps that he was maybe doing more damage to the car by trying to bring it home. He's pulled over, I suppose better late than never, but what a shame that had to happen. It was shaping up to be a great battle, wasn't it? And poor old Mark Farmer, I think he's actually been off 3 times, though, because he dropped into the middle of the GT4 back on lap 1, then went off at Old Hall Corner and then caught up with Ian Loggie's stricken car as well. So 3 of our potential front-running GT3 cars in early strife. In GT4, incidentally, it is still Buford in the Mustang that leads the way, but it is the number 57 McLaren, run out of HHC Motorsport of Dean McDonald, that has got itself into 2nd position. So it was a Mustang lockout on the front row in GT4, but we have had some changes of position in that class as well. OK, so Rick Parfitt, you were on board with him a second ago. He is the race leader. Now, let's try and piece together exactly what did happen going into, well, first of all, Old Hall at the start of the race. We'll get to the incident in due course. So, from pole position, Ian Loggie, good getaway. The Adam Ballon green Lamborghini pulls out to the outside and slots back in again. So far, so good. Ian Loggie leads everybody nicely through Old Hall Corner. Mark Farmer goes a little bit wide up onto the curb, but actually managed to hang on to track position at least at that point. This is looking back from the JRM Bentley as the race gets underway down towards Old Hall. Brake hard, turn right, careful through the right-hander on the colder tyre, looking from the GT4 part of the grid. This is Mark Kimber's view. Brakes hard, swings in, he's got cars all around him, including around the outside there, James Dorlin, Clio Cup graduate. And then they plunge down towards Cascades. Now, Mark Farmer, part 1, gets involved, spins at Old Hall. Thankfully, he's avoided. That was James Dorlin he was bouncing off. So that was one incident that he had. There's more to come, I'm afraid. And then, from that angle, it looks like the car wasn't for slowing.
No. There's a puff of smoke from the front right, which suggests to me some sort of ABS issue. These cars shouldn't lock up. Ryan was unfortunately just a passenger there, so a genuine mistake, but that has wiped both cars out. Look for the puff of smoke on the front right, just there. Right. And then, he tries to go to the inside to avoid the rear of Ian, and but that was only ever going to be a closing gap, and both cars out of the race.
And Ian Loggie did nothing wrong, did he? I mean, he was turning in, he was the race leader, he had track position, and this missile appears from nowhere. Let's see whether we can hear more about certainly the Mercedes side of this, because Callum McLeod, Ian Loggie's co-driver, ain't going to get a drive. He's in the pit lane. How did he see it? He's with Andy J.
Thanks, David. Callum, obviously not what you were hoping for. Just talk us through how you saw the incident.
I think it's fairly plain to see. I mean, Ryan's a great lad, but he's just made a mistake. He's out-braked himself. He was locked up, and just drove inside of Ian. Like I say, I know Ryan very well. There'd be no malice in it, but this early in the season, it was not a good thing to do.
Absolutely no fault on Ian's part.
None whatsoever. No, you see it. Absolutely none whatsoever. No.
So from your perspective now, is there a chance to be able to regroup for the next race? Are you going to be able to rebuild and get out there? Yeah,
of course, we'll get the car sorted, we'll get back out on track, and I mean, we're incredibly fast, especially over the long run, so we'll see what happens, but it's not a good way to start, but you've got to move on.
Like you say, you know Ryan well, we all know that he's a good lad and he's not that sort, he's not deliberately taking you out, but presumably you'll still go and have a little word in his shell when he's in.
What can you say? He's made a mistake, he's ruined his race, he's ruined our race. What's it going to achieve? Nothing. So, no, I won't say anything. I mean, Ryan's a good guy. I'm sure he'll be over to apologise.
Okay. Well, look, I appreciate you talking to us. Sorry to see what's happened as well.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Of course, Andy's next target is going to be Ryan Ratcliffe to go and get his side of the story. You've heard from the prosecution. The defence might well want a word. Interesting that Callum is putting it down to an error, whereas David from up here thinking it might have been a problem with the ABS on that car, but we'll hopefully be able to hear from Ryan Ratcliffe once he's back in the pit lane, and will be hugely frustrated himself. Now, this is the reason the safety car is out, because of the damage to the suspension. The Mercedes needs to be lifted. What they're going to do is send everybody the old way through Knickerbrook, so move the escape road barriers out of the way. This keeps the race flowing, so sensible decision by the clerk of the course, Peter Daly, to do this. And you're on board with Rick Parfitt back in the championship. Of course, he and Seb Morris won it a couple of seasons ago, and the incident between Loggie and Ratcliffe is going to be looked at after the race. But right now, it is Rick Parfitt from Sam Dehaan and Dominic Paul, first, second and third.
Yeah, no great surprise to hear that that's being investigated. We will await a decision for that. But yeah, I bet Rick couldn't believe his eyes when he came down into Hislops and saw his teammate from last year tangling up with Ian Loggie, a former Team Park Racing driver, of course. Rick no longer with Team Park Racing, it's a JRM Bentley. But yes, the band back together, they briefly came back together at Silverstone last year when Ryan was a little ill, and so Seb stepped in. But yes, they're back together for a full season now. Both of them champions a couple of seasons ago.
A moment ago, you saw the Prio family watching on. Joe Prio and Daniela, her daughter, watching Seb, who is in the leading pack within GT4. GT4 currently is the very American Multimatic Mustang. Jay Buford and Chad McCumbee ahead, but the Seb Prio Scott Maxwell car, Scott Maxwell behind the wheel, in fact, at the moment, is second in GT4.
Third, I think they lost that position to McLaren, didn't they? McDonald, the 57 car on the opening lap. They're still there. I think that was just in the shuffle through Oulton Corner. So the Mustang's still looking strong despite that extra 30 kilos of ballast. But David, that ballast will have more of an effect arguably here than anywhere else because it's very stop-start and it's very hilly.
Yeah, that's the big thing, the stop-starts and the hills, yes. On a hot day like this as well, the tyres are going to overheat more, so that weight is going to play more of a factor towards certainly the end of the race as well.
Yes, and of course that is the same penalty as it happens, but different reasons that the Silver driver pairings have to carry in GT3. For GT4, it's a 15 kilo penalty for being a Silver driver lineup and an extra 14 seconds in the pit lane. But for the GT3 cars, it is just the extra ballast. So good news there, David. Ian Loggie's car is on the back of the flatbed truck. It'll take the access road, I'd imagine, to the old range corner there on the inside of Knickerbrook, and hopefully we should be racing before too much longer.
Indeed, so there is the safety car then coming down towards Hislop's. It is Rick Parfitt, as we've been saying, at the head of the queue. All of this eating into the racing time for the, in quotes, and the lower graded driver. What do they have to do at this point, David? I mean, they've got to think about tyre pressures and tyre temperatures, but there's not a lot else, is there? Just keep circulating and keep focused.
Yeah, that's the big thing. And you can see, I think this is one of the Century Motorsport BMs working the wheel hard, weaving hard to try and generate load in the tyres, keep the heat in the tyres, so that when the track goes green again, the car is at its optimum, and they can obviously pounce hopefully on other people's positions.
Yeah, Mark Kimber you're riding with as he works his way up towards the completion of the lap. Now when the lights go out on the safety car, that's the indication that it will peel in and will be good to go racing, which is this time then. So it's going to be Rick Parfitt versus Sam de Haan. Dominic Paul in the mighty BMW in third place, Adrian Wilmot running fourth in the similar car. Can Rick Parfitt get away? He's probably the most experienced of that leading gang in terms of GT3 machinery, save for Adrian Wilmot. Over the timing line they come, then the race is back underway with green flag conditions again. Parfitt leads them by 6/10, diving down towards Old Hall Corner. De Haan, Paul, Wilmot, second, third and fourth. Fifth is Adam Ballard. Richard Neary is in sixth. And there, an effort is made on the inside line by the McLaren of Dean McDonald to try to get the GT4 lead. Didn't quite work, but Dean McDonald is going great guns.
Yeah, Ford McLaren at the head of GT4 at the moment. They're pairing up here, but that McLaren does look strong, doesn't it? Decent restart there. I worried for a moment they were going to make contact. They avoided it, but you could see there visibly the extra exit speed coming out of Cascades for Dean McDonald in second place in the now slightly lighter McLaren. They've had a bit of a ride height break as well since Saturday with some more of the BOP tweaks, the GT4 McLarens. So that car on its toes here looks the quicker of the two. We're on board with the man who's got the grandstand seat here. That's Maxwell in the number 15 car behind, who started that car, Scott Maxwell. He will hand it over to Sebastian Prio later on. It's nose to tail, 2, 4, 6, 7 of them really in this lead pack of GT4 cars.
So we're currently on lap number 7. Pit window will be for the GT3 cars between 22 and 32 minutes as you're looking at the GT4 lead battle here. So racing here for the first time, it is Jay Buford just ahead of Dean McDonald, single-seater convert. So he is the man doing the fighting. Number 95 Aston Martin then, which is Patrick Kibble starting, also looking to try to gain ground within GT4, getting onto the back of Tom Jackson as the GT3 leader comes down towards Lodge Corner. A challenge is made on the inside line by Adrian Wilmot, who clatters his way up the inside. Elbows out, he's coming through, leans Dominic Paul up onto the curb. Dominic doesn't take time into that, so the two BMWs are going to be side by side across the timing line. Adrian Wilmot's got the inside line for Old Hall Corner. He breaks late, he goes through, he's got the job done, David, but that was a bit aggressive at Lodge.
I think Nathan Freak from Century Motorsport has probably absolutely lost his mind just then. His two cars clattering alongside each other. It was a forceful move. The door might not fully been open going into the final corner there, but Wilmot certainly made sure it was open by the apex. Yeah, Dominic Paul gave him good room after that towards the first corner, and he completed the move. But yeah, I'm sure there'll be word potentially in the steward's office and in the Century Motorsport office as well after this race.
Yes, it was a touring car move, that, rather than a gentlemanly GT move. But anyway, it's worked for Adrian Wilmot. As I say, he goes back to the 1980s and FF 1600 racing around here. Number 72, Adam Ballon, you're riding with now as he comes over hill top. Now, he has just seen what's gone on ahead, so if Dominic Paul can lose a place, he can lose another one, thinks Adam, and he is going to get himself into the mix. Now, this is going to be a competitive car, isn't it, when you put Phil Keane in for the second stint, but Adam Ballon here doing his best to drag it up the order before the pit stops.
Yeah, absolutely, and we're heading now towards that part of the circuit in a quarter or so's time, where we saw the BMWs swap positions a lap ago. Dominic Paul was actually the highest placed of the two Century Motorsport BMWs on the grid, so it'll be interesting to see what sort of pace he's got now. Adam Drew as we go. I don't think Adam Ballon is quite close enough as they run down past the stricken Bentley there that was involved in that early skirmish with Ryan Ratcliffe on board. They've left it at the side of the road, but well out of the way. There is the surviving Bentley. Rick Parfitt leading the way and pulling away now as well from Sam Zahan. 3.1 seconds the margin, but it is going to be Wilmot in third position now, ahead of that pair of Century Motorsport BMWs, who's got his head down. He's only 6/10 behind Sam Zahan and appears to be closing in slightly, I would say. Out of Deersley comes the GT4 battle. It is still Ford and McLaren from 4, but it's 3 abreast behind them. This won't work out, surely. 2 McLarens on the inside line and more teammates to play, David.
Absolutely, that's the 2 Tolman McLarens, absolutely side by side. Jordan Collard and James Dorlin, and off the road goes James Dorlin. Very, very, very wide, bits fly. He's lost place after place. He's back on. Mark Farmer gains a place back, but James Dorlin very nearly had to pay to get back into the circuit there. He was a long, long way off. What was that you were saying, David, about team managers having kittens? That's another example.
Chris Tolman is also now going to be taken to A&E, I think, now. Yeah, another forceful move. I think that's maybe Collard's dad rubbing off on him very slightly there. But Dorlin, a Clio racer, is used to that door-to-door contact. Did very well to keep it in a straight line across the grass there. And apart from a few places and a little bit of bodywork shed, they're still in the race, which is the main thing this early part of the season.
Now that safety car we were saying helped Mark Farmer here, number 2 Aston, because it brought him back onto the queue of cars. He stayed on the lead lap. Now he's wriggling his way through, and he's being helped by some of them falling over themselves. So Mark Farmer making progress. He was up to 18th at the start of the lap, and he should be even better off come the end of this next lap. We're currently on lap number 9. We're only, now about 10 minutes or so off that pit window opening as number 5 goes through, which is Jordan Collard. It is still Rick Parfitt leading outright, incidentally, and he leads by 4.5 seconds from Sam Dahan, who's coming under renewed attack from Adrian Wilmot. Mark Farmer comes up there in the blue Aston through Druids. And everywhere you look in GT4 at the moment, there's a scrap going on, but the class is still being led by Jay Buford. Now this is for second place outright. It's Sam Dahan in his second year of GT racing, and he has got the elbows out Adrian Wilmot now, looming in his mirrors, David.
Yes, Adrian is a man on the move at the moment. He's quickly gapped the number 3 BM, and it's right at the back of the Lambo here. It'll be interesting to see what the characteristics of the car, how it plays out in this. I think the Lambo will be more agile and nimble through the second sector of the lap, the 2 chicanes, but the BM is really well suited to the medium to high speed corners. So first and last part of the lap, which arguably is where the main overtaking spots are. So it could be playing into Wilmot's hands, and we can see he's not afraid to get his elbows out.
But while they're squabbling over second and third and fourth places, of course, so Rick Parfitt's getting away up the road. He's done the fastest lap of the race now, Andy. He leads by 4.5 seconds. That's all looking good.
Yeah, exactly. This is sort of fallen into his lap, hasn't it, really, with the drama we had earlier on. But yes, he's pulling away clear now. What's almost a 4-car fight per second. We're actually only about 3.5 minutes away from the pit lane window opening for the GT3 cars. 22 minutes into the race. So when that clock at the top of your screen drops down to 38 minutes remaining, the pit lane window will open, and I would imagine we'll see most of the AM drivers getting in early and sticking the pro driver in for the second half of the race. So another 2 laps really. We could have lots of action in the pit lane.
Having said that, Rick Parfitt is certainly not a slow driver, nor is Adrian Wilmot, former champion Rick, hugely experienced driver Adrian in both modern and historic GT cars. So they are certainly nicely placed at the moment. And Sam Dahan running in second place, number 69. He will hand over to Johnny Cocker, himself a former champion. Now, meantime in GT4, this is for the class lead, isn't it? You've got Jay Buford here just ahead of Dean McDonald as the two of them accelerate now down towards Lodge Corner. Fascinating this, isn't it, to see the sort of grunt and go Mustang versus the rather more aero-friendly McLaren. Strengths and weaknesses, David, at different parts of the circuit.
Yeah, definitely. the HOC guys who have taken on this McLaren for the first time this year. Very, very experienced and successful team. They've got on top of this car clearly very quickly, and Dean McDonald there, very successful karter and driver in the championship last year. He's really putting the pressure on the new boys to the block, the Americans that have come across the pond at this classic and old school British circuit.
And Jay Buford, as we say, racing here for the first time, is doing a really good job because he's learning about the car, he's learning about the circuit, he's learning about the people around him, and he's hanging on to the lead, and he's soaking up all of this pressure. But they have, as well, gapped now Scott Maxwell running 30 GT4. Mark Farmer, by the way, has jumped up ahead of all of them now, so he's 11th overall. That slots him into the back of the GT3, GTC line of cars. As here, you see what else is going on in GT4, including the Jaguar there going through the Invictus Games racing car of Major Steve McCulley, former Caterham racer, badly injured in Afghanistan, but now loving his motor racing as Rick Parfitt leads the way. He's got 11 laps at the book, he's 6 seconds clear now. And who else have we got making progress behind? Dehaan is dropping away, Wilmot's still stuck there behind him. In 4th place, Dominic Paul. Adam Ballon is 5th. 6th is Richard Neary. 7th is Ollie Wilkinson. Graham Davidson is 8th. Andrew Howard is only 9th. Not yet making the progress you might have anticipated there.
Well, we've seen Andrew often take the more cautious approach, haven't we, in the early stages of the race, because on too many occasions his cars have been damaged in the first couple of laps, and we've seen that happen here at Oulton Park in the past. So he's fairly vocal about the fact that he doesn't really see the point in taking huge risks in the first 10 or 15 minutes of racing. He'll be preferring, I think, to keep his powder dry, keep the car in one piece, and hand it over to his co-driver still on the road, which is really the main thing. But this fight for second place is getting rather entertaining, isn't it? Sam Dehaan so far seems to have an answer to all of the questions being asked of him by Wilmot behind, but the Century Motorsport BMW's hunting as a pack. They do seem to have the edge into the braking zone for some of the higher speed corners, but not yet been able to prise the door open. Here's another Century Motorsport car as well, back in GT4. It's the 42 machine, started by Mark Kimber, and he too is trying to pick his way up the order. He's 9th at the moment in class.
Yeah, looking to try and find a way past Conor O'Brien in the Aston Martin. So pit stops imminent. In fact, we just had into the pit lane number 97, which is Ash had to give way to Tom Camming, or it will be when you get to the routine stop, but that is not a scheduled pit stop, so it's a mechanical gremlin, I think, was brought in early. So it's one car for the pit lane as battles continue out on track. The pit stop window is open for the GT3 and the GTC teams. Rick Parfitt has gone through, putting another lap in the book. And do we have anybody in? Yes, we do, because Dehaan, I think, is in. Presumably Wilmot and Richard Neary are going to come in as well. So, early pit stops there, you see. They've got to go nose into the garage to save space, because Oulton Park's pit lane is not the biggest. And look, now you can see just why we've got these staggered pit windows, because suddenly it's got very busy down there. That's Sam Dehaan giving way to Johnny Cocker. For Rick Parfitt, he's got to do a qualifying lap now, hasn't he, and try and pull clear. Yeah. And attention to the BMW.
There's a change of order here. Dominic Paul is now 3rd, Wilmot 4th, and Dehaan has dropped 2 positions to 5th just before the pit window. So something we've not seen on air, but there's been a change for the top for 3rd position in GT3 there.
I think attributes some of that to where the timing line is, can't we, in the pit lane, but there was definitely damage to the back of that BMW, wasn't there?
Indeed so. So that was the Adrian Wilmot car. We'll no doubt piece it together, but the GT4 battle there goes through. This again is Mark Kimber's view. So we've got, looking down to the pit lane, number 3 about to rejoin, which is Ben Green in the Century car. So that is delayed.
He stalled it. Oh.
The pit lane at the moment is becoming very, very busy indeed, and the one beneficiary out of all of this is going to be Ollie Wilkinson and Brad Ellis's Aston, because that, you can see, has jumped ahead of Johnny Cocker. There, Ben Green goes back out ahead of the Adrian Wilmot, and what he's now going to be driven by Jack Mitchell BMW. So on the pit window, we had a fair amount of shuffling. Some, of course, have done it better than others. Now the danger is that if you're really good and you go under the mandatory time, then you end up with a penalty. But we have had a shuffle, and we'll have to catch up on that at the end of the lap. But for some, it was looking good. And then, as David was saying, Ben Green, as he got away, seemed to stall the engine. and bogged down. Now, GT4, they're still battling on the track, never mind in the pit lane, and Dean McDonald is crawling all over the back of Jay Buford here.
Yeah, these two have sort of gapped the rest of the field behind, haven't they? So that leaves McDonald free to attack the car in front. Back on board with the 42 car of Mark Kimber here, who has yet to find a way ahead of Jordan Collard in front of him, but the leading two in GT4, for whom the pit lane window will open in about 3.5 minutes for the GT4 cars, are almost side by side. In fact, I think they are overlapping. The McLaren to the outside of the Ford Mustang into Lodge Corner, and right around the outside. No, too late on the brakes. There was no way through on the dirty side of the road there. An ambitious attempted move there by Dean McDonald. It does not pay off, and he settles back into second place. But that was a prime example, wasn't it, of how much better on the brakes the McLaren appeared to be. Okay, didn't quite work on that occasion, but that does seem to be where they have an edge.
Now the race leader has pitted. Rick Parfitt has, there you can see, given way now. So Seb Morris is at the wheel of the car. Have they been able to hang on to the advantage is the next question. It's going to be Seb Morris versus potentially Phil Keane now in number 72. So we have got an awful lot of shuffling going on, partly because of the pit stops, partly now because of quicker drivers getting on board. So it's going to take a bit of unravelling in the next lap or so. But Seb Morris has taken over what was the leading car. Here in the meantime, number 15, look, coming under attack. So that is Scott Maxwell, who has now got tucked up behind him the McLaren in the hands, number 5 of Jordan Collard, swinging their way out of Britain's up towards Hilltop once more. So Morris to Keane, the top two in the GT3 competition for the moment, and this in GT4 is still the class lead up for grabs, isn't it, where there's a very, very fierce fight indeed going on.
Yeah, the McLaren having a little peek up the inside there, but Dean McDonald, I think, deciding that discretion was the better part of valour there. In amongst them all is the car that's now been taken over by Seb Morris. There he is. Of course, this is technically for position now, because the GT4 cars have not yet stopped. They will be doing so, or beginning to do so in the next few laps, but I believe that he is still the highest placed of the GT3 cars. Then a pitted, a bit of contact there with the third place Mustang, and off onto the grass, unfortunately. As a result of that goes Scott Maxwell. He's out of a podium place. I sort of alluded to this potential at the start of the race. Well, there's more contact. Oh, yes, there is a bit of leaning on each other there for the race lead in GT4. And again on the exit of the corner, wheel to wheel, out of the turn, over Deer's lead. And Dean McDonald, well, he tried the outside line at Lodge Corner a lap ago. He's now at the inside. Add into the mix the fact that the overall race leader is trying to get through. This is very busy indeed.
This is not what Seb Morris needs, is it? With people tripping over themselves and tripping over him. So Scott Maxwell turned in, bounced off the Bentley and ends up in the gravel. Seb Morris gets through the traffic. Few, he thinks, but was that a back marker not concentrating, David, or was that just symptomatic of a busy track around Oulton Park?
That is a place where a GT3 car can overtake, again with compliance from the other car. The inexperience of these Mustang drivers may not have seen that, so yeah, tough one there.
Yeah.
Seb was fully alongside, but the Mustang didn't see him.
And as for this is brave stuff, isn't it? Dean McDonald up the inside. A rub there as they come up dearly, and it worked for the McLaren. He got through, but that could have been a lot worse. So great racing in GT4, but Scott Maxwell then has dropped a long way back as a consequence of all of that. So as we've got the last of the GT3 stops to cycle through, the GT4 pit window will be opening shortly. And look at this traffic jam now. Somewhere in and amongst all of that are the race leaders. You've got all the GT4 back markers as well. Lights flashing there as the GT3 field tries to carve up through the traffic. So at the moment, Seb Morris has the advantage in GT3, but as soon as they can get through the back markers, it's going to be very different. And at the moment, trying to find the next opposition is going to be where Phil Keane still in second within GT3, and the third of the GT3 cars. You've got to go quite a long way down to the Ollie Wilkinson, Brad Ellis Aston Martin, I think, but again, that's going to be confirmed at the end of the next lap.
Very busy again through Druids Corner here. It's a job to know which side of the road to go in the GT4 cars. Often the GT3 drivers sort of request that the slower traffic just sticks to the racing line. At least that way they know where they're going. But when the GT4 cars are battling so ferociously for position, as they are of course perfectly entitled to, there often just ain't the room for a GT3 car to slip through the middle as well. Down towards Oulton Corner they go, and the Century Motorsport number 3 car very late on the brakes there. That one now being piloted by Ben Green, and Ben in that number 3 machine is making decent progress here out of Old Hall Corner. I reckon they're inside the top 3 now. We'll wait for this all to shuffle out, of course, in the next lap or so.
That is the second place car, Phil Keane, who is 7.3 seconds behind Seb Morris, and is lapping quicker. His last lap was fractionally faster. That might have been Seb stuck in traffic. It might just be that Phil Keane, who's a Lamborghini factory driver, knows the car inside out and is absolutely flying. But Seb Morris has a cushion, and we've still got 30 minutes of the race to go. But it's going to be fascinating now to see whether or not Phil Keane is able to close. He's brought the gap down by 200ths within the first sector. So you've got two very, very good British GT drivers here in cars they know well. Seb, for example, will be part of the Bentley Works squad in the Spa 24 Hours. He drives Bentleys in Blockpan as well as in the British GT Championship. So too does Phil Keane, and it's going to be between these two. And Phil Keane has just done the best of anybody in the middle sector in the race thus far. So he is absolutely flying, and there you can see the gap that he's got to make up. There's no traffic around for the moment. GT4 pit window is open, however, so the road is going to be patchy. Sometimes it'll be empty because they're in the pits, and it's going to get busy because they've all poured out again.
Yes, exactly, and of course it's tricky coming out of Old Hall Corner. You can't necessarily see that pit lane exit until you're out of the turn, at which point you could have a cluster of GT4 cars emerging into your path. Seb Morris sets the fastest lap, briefly, only to be immediately pipped by Phil Keane, who again was over half a second quicker than the race leader on that lap. So the gap is now under 7 seconds as they go on to their 17th lap of the race. Third place then, technically Dean McDonald in the GT4 car, because those cars, of course, gain quite a bit of time when the GT3 cars all dive for the pit lane. But game on at the front of the field. Of course, Phil Keane and Seb Morris fought for the championship a couple of years ago, didn't they? Back when Phil was racing with John Minshaw and Seb Morris and Rick Parfitt came out champions. So they know each other well. It looks as though it's the Lamborghini the faster of the two at the moment, though.
So the fastest lap of the race done by the chasing Phil Keane, and Seb Morris is responding. You're looking at the GT4 pit stops all being cycled through. We'll get back to GT4 in a moment, but as far as the overall situation is concerned, as I say, the lead gap coming down. Phil Keane now having done the fastest lap of the race. Now, behind, you've got Johnny Cocker. He is coming under attack now from Ben Green. So they are 6th and 7th on the road, but that's all going to improve because of the GT4 cars getting out of the way on the pit stops. There is Seb Morris, road to himself at the moment, but David, the way that Phil Keane is going, he's going to bring the gap down and down, isn't he?
Looking at the qualifying results, Phil Keane is in a little bit of a league of his own at the moment. He was over half a second up the road from anyone around here. He's had 3 out of 4 wins here in the past 2 years, I think it is, and he knows that Lamborghini, even though it is the new Evo version of the Huracan, he knows it like the back of his hand. Now being a factory driver for Lamborghini, well deserved, and yeah, watch that gap come down. He's taken another 4 tenths out of the leader this time round.
So 6.3 seconds is the gap. It was 7 and change. So Phil Keane hacking away at Seb Morris. Now third is Brad Ellis. 4th is Johnny Cocker. 5th is Ben Green. 6th is Jack Mitchell. 7th now is Johnny Adam, multiple champion. We've not yet really touched on Johnny, but he's there in 7th place, taking over from Graham Davidson. In 8th place now it's Amber Christodoulou. 9th is Marco Sorensen in for Andrew Howard. And in 10th place, but dropping, is the GT4 leader Dean McDonald as the pit window cycles through for the GT4 cars. Now, number 2 has got a 1 second stop-go penalty. That's Mark Farmer and Nicky Teams Aston for being 1 second short on the pit stop. So you get the stop-go penalty to make up the shortfall. I did say if you get it wrong, you get the penalty to go with it. It's not Mark Farmer's day, is it? Multitudinous dramas at the very start. Now a stop-go penalty. Meantime, Morris to Keane, 6.3 seconds is the gap to monitor. What's going on in GT4 with the pit stops having all unwound, Andy?
They're still unwinding is the answer, because I just saw the 2 Century Motorsport GT4 BMWs heading out of the pit lane. So, yes, Buford's just pitted from the lead of that class, in fact. So we probably won't know the order in reality in GT4 for another lap or so. There wasn't quite the same urgency for the GT4 cars, whereas in GT3 they also dived in over the course of 1 or 2 laps. In GT4 they've sort of used up more of the pit lane window, so it's taking a bit longer to unravel. What I can tell you is that this is getting very close now for 3rd place. Bradley Ellis and Johnny Cocker, former champion himself, of course, getting themselves together. Aston Martin would love to get one of their cars on the podium here in the opening round of the championship. The new generation Aston Martin, of course. It is a new generation Lamborghini as well. It looks much the same as the cars that we've seen racing for the last few seasons, the Huracan GT3, but this is the GT3 Evo that's flashing its lights into Old Hall Corner. David Pittard, that's racing driver body sign language for "I'm faster than you, get out of the way."
Yeah, on these GT3 cars, they're a fun button to have, especially in the traffic, the slower GT4 traffic. You use it a lot just to grab the driver's attention, to show that I'm going to make a move on you next corner. When it's class on class champion, it's just a case of letting them know that you're in their mirrors and that you want to try and force them into a mistake.
So we are, of course, at the halfway point just over. Drama very early on with that incident between Ryan Ratcliffe and Ian Logie, and Andy J has managed to find Ryan Ratcliffe down to the pit lane to try and discover exactly what happened.
I certainly have, yes. Ryan has been very bold and is prepared to step up and talk to us after what must be a heartbreaking and also very frustrating incident.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I want to say a huge sorry to Ram Racing, Ian and Callum. I mean, Ian was delighted to be on pole, and you know, he got a great start. I was under immense pressure to get past him, and well, everyone in the industry knows everything just happens in a split second. It was, you know, he hit the brakes a tiny bit earlier than the previous lap. I wasn't expecting it. I braked where I braked the lap before, and it was either plough into the back of him or go down the inside. So I chose to go down the inside. I think Ian panicked a little bit and tried to stop me doing it, and I was just going too quickly, and yeah, ended up hitting him and ruining the race for the two of us, really. So
you're absolutely crestfallen, aren't you? But you've already popped in to see Callum at the very least, and sort of offered your apologies, and he's already spoken to us, and he knows there's no malice in it.
No. You know, I'm not the type of driver that if there's someone in my way and I want to get past them, I'll hit them out of the way. It's racing's racing. You've got to be fair, and you know, this is a non-contact sport. I know how much it costs. These cars are worth an awful lot of money, and the last thing I want to do is go bashing them around and beating them up. You know, I can understand that Ian and Callum are both going to be pretty angry with me at the minute, but I just want them to know that it wasn't on purpose, and you know, we're all out there to race hard and race fair, and like I said in the beginning, things can happen in a split second. And
thanks for talking to us, mate. You should go and have a little lie down.
Interesting that, David, that he's stuck his hands up and said, yeah, my fault. You were wondering whether it was an ABS issue, but Ryan saying, no, all down to me.
Yeah, it's kind of sums Ryan up, really. Yeah. Nice, genuine guy. He's not out there for any malice, and he's definitely not a dirty driver that would fire people out of the way because he wants to come through. He was showing intent, but yeah, it's not something he would do, so fair play to him.
Now, this lead gap is intriguing because it's sort of stabilised a little bit now. It's around 5.8 seconds again. So although Phil Keane was catching, as I say now, he's got into this stint, the car a bit nervous at Cascades there. It hasn't stabilised at 5.8 seconds, so the advantage swings back slightly the way of Seb Morris. But in turn, the gap second to third is 17 seconds. Although Brad Ellis is doing a good job, he's another former champion in third place with Cocker and Green and Mitchell behind him. They're going to have to really work some or hope for a safety car to get back into the game. So Phil Keane, what can he do now, David, in order to get himself back into the mix?
So with these Pirelli tyres, sometimes you can go out a little bit too hard on the tyre initially, which Phil, well, he's certainly gone out hard because he set the fastest lap of the race. Morris has brought the tyre in maybe a little bit smoother, and he's been super consistent in regards to his times. He's not got the ultimate pace, a few tenths off, but he's done that lap, I think 3 laps in a row now, and now that gap is maintained. But he's got 5 and a bit seconds, so that's not a huge amount of pressure. So it'll be interesting to see if Keane's got anything more in the bag or if Morris's tyres go off anymore.
Because neither of them are doing good sectors anymore. They're at Beechdene. It's time for an ice cream to see what's going on, and it is Marco Sorensen that's taken over from Andrew Howard. As in GT4, pit stops are all done. Incidentally, Nicky Team came in to serve the pit stop penalty that he and Mark Farber have got, and then proceeded to stall twice on exit, so they've taken a step backwards, then back down the order. In GT4 then, we've got number 5 now in the hands of Lewis Proctor, going after the 57 HHC McLaren Callum Poynton. Ginetta Starr at the wheel of that, and the GT4 pit window is now closed, Andy, so they've got to run to the end, haven't they?
Yes, they have indeed, and it is predominantly actually the silver driver line that's going to found their way towards the front of GT4 at the moment, with the possible exception of so yeah, it is predominantly silver cars at the front of GT4. In what order they are, I think that is more or less the same as what it was before, actually, with the McLarens and the Mustangs towards the sharp end. There is the 57 McLaren, in fact, which was started by Dean McDonald, now has Callum Poynton, very rapid former Ginetta racer, on board, and it is only just managing to fend off the number 5 example of Lewis Proctor through from the Nicky team. A fired up Nicky team. Mind you, Nicky's always reasonably fired up, isn't he?
Yes,
so
indeed,
given
yes.
how badly their day's going so far today, I would imagine the red mist has fully descended, hasn't it? Not the start to the season that they needed.
And there running wide is Callum Poynton. Doesn't affect GT4 life. It enables Nicky team to get past. Nicky, when he got here last year, his eyes were out like Chapel Hat pegs. He couldn't believe what Oulton Park was about. Nor could Marco Sorensen, as he had these works Aston Martin drivers coming into British GT with the WEC so-called super season and its quirky calendar. There back into the race goes number 4, which now goes to Josh Smith and will go to what? Second in GT4, just behind Callum Poynton. In fact, almost alongside as they head down the hill. Callum Poynton just fends him off then as they get to the braking zone into Cascades. It's going to be a great battle to the end here. And interesting as well that the Mustangs have rather fallen away on the pit stops now.
Yeah, they have. A team, of course, who are relatively inexperienced, I guess, in this championship, and with the quirks of British GT pit stop regulations, that's something I'm sure that they'll get to grips with fairly quickly. They are a professional outfit who have had success over in the States. But this is a new championship to them and the cars and the drivers, so it's all a fairly steep learning curve, isn't it?
Yeah.
The car clearly has pace, and that really is the most significant thing. In amongst this GT4 battle, we see the Porsche. It is the only Porsche out this weekend. We're hoping that the ECAT Racing GT3 Porsche will be out with us from Stettis and onwards, but that is the Sol GTC car, which is a separate class. It's sort of a nice stepping stone between GT4 and GT3, and the number 18 car, which was started by Michael Igo, therefore now has Adam Wilcox on board, is running just outside the top 10 outright. Of course, guaranteed a class victory as long as they get to the end in one piece, but good to see Porsche back on the grid, one of 10 brands represented this season across the 3 classes.
Absolutely right. He just wriggled his way through the GT4 traffic. So here you have, it's all very McLaren at the moment, the top 3 within the GT4 contest, and the 2 Tolman twins going after HHC as they come now down towards the right-hand of Lodge Corner. David, GT4 has been fascinating to watch in the last few years, the way that as a category globally it's suddenly gelled, and all these manufacturers now building turnkey cars rather than it being down to a tuner to try and crack the problem.
Yeah, it's absolutely exploded. Big credit to the SRO organisation for making championships that provide this is the entry level into GT racing effectively. These are slightly modified road cars, as you mentioned, by the manufacturer, and it gives a good entry level before you really step into the big boy GT3 cars, which really are animals, and it's both good for pros and AMs and semi-pros looking to build careers in GT racing.
And this McLaren customer racing programme, good for teams and drivers, and right now looking very good indeed for HHC. Now on track, Seb Morris leads the way, and it was a great first stint that was done in that car by Rick Parfitt. He is in the pits with Andy J.
Thank you. Yes, Rick, it was a terrific start for you from P4 to P3 very early on, and then of course you benefited from the incident just in front.
Yeah, I mean, Oulton, as we know, is very, very tight, and so my strategy from the beginning was to stay out of trouble, and it's always slippy around turn 1 on the outside, so I literally wanted just to slot in, and I saw Dahan went in slightly too hot, and so I kind of capitalised on, got a good run out of Cascades and got in front of him, and then set about following the other 2, and I was pretty happy to just sit there, to be honest, but you could see they were going hammer and tongs at each other, and I thought that I didn't want to really particularly get involved, and sadly I think it was only a matter of time. They were really pushing each other, and it's just sad to see that happen, especially on the first round, because obviously Ryan's my old teammate and he's a great driver, and Ian did an amazing job in quali yesterday, and that Mercedes looks amazingly fast, so we've got our work cut out, but I was obviously, you know, happy to inherit the lead, but then I knew we had a quick race car. It wasn't as quick in qualifying, but we knew we had a quick race car, and so JRM, considering the lack of time we've had with the car, have done an incredible job, and put my head down, and I think I came in sort of roughly with 7 seconds lead, so that's
yeah, but it was a heck of a first stint, mate. But of course now Seb, despite that impressive lead, has really got his work cut out of him, because he's got Phil Keane breathing down his neck.
Absolutely, and Seb's on old tyres as well, so he didn't get a new set of tyres. He used quali tyres, and so Phil has got new tyres. Obviously, we all know how quick Phil is. We saw his pole lap yesterday. I mean, he's an amazing driver. But so Seb, so you know, it's one thing catching, but it's also another passing. So I would like to think that we'll be either first or second.
There you go. Thanks, mate. Good luck. And we'll see you later. Thank you.
Well, now that's the second place Lamborghini, 6.5 seconds behind this leading Bentley. Seb Morris is aboard the Bentley, Phil Keane in the Lamborghini, and the gap which was coming down has been going up again. David, are we putting that down to traffic, or are we thinking this is more of a Bentley circuit? Which way is your thought process leaning?
It's interesting to hear that Rick's saying that they didn't take new tyres in the pit stop, but Keane did, and that reflects in the lap times themselves. So yeah, I think also another good point that Rick mentioned is catching is one thing, passing is another. You saw what happened when GT3 cars get together. It's been quite fisticuffs type race.
Yes.
Again, looking at the long distance, the reason why both Rick, Seb and Phil Keane have, well, actually not Phil Keane, have won GT3 British GT Championships is just scoring points consistently. So whether Keane's just looking after his tyres now, accepting the fact that he's got a massive gap to third, that's going to be a good start to the year for those guys.
And this GT4 battle, strangely, because they're squabbling for second, the two Tolman McLarens are letting the HHC car get away. Callum Poynton has been adapting to a new car and learning about the nuances of the McLaren, but right now this is looking very, very good indeed, isn't it? Because he's building a gap. Tolman squabbling for second with his two cars rather than working together to try and catch.
Yes, exactly. You always wonder if they were the other way round, maybe they'd be able to make some more progress. And it does appear, rather, that Lewis Proctor feels he is the quicker of these two McLarens, but one thing's for sure, it's looking like a good race for McLaren in GT4, isn't it? Because they're locking out the top positions at the moment. The top 4 cars in GT4 are all McLarens, and they are almost in the same shot as they come through the Britain chicane. So it's still very close indeed. If Lewis Proctor gets on with this, he might yet have time to go after Callum Poynton, the class leader. There's no opportunity to get through down at his locks though, and here it's almost now become a one-way race, hasn't it? There's no real advantages or disadvantages for different cars around different parts of the circuit, and that's why it's proving difficult, I think, for Lewis to find a way past his teammates. I'd say though that they are both starting on this particular lap anyway to inch back onto the tail of Callum Poynton.
You've taken the words. Yes, I was just thinking the very same thing. What looked like a gap at the start of the lap, David, now is a 3, almost 4-way fight for honours, isn't it? Because you've got a McLaren showroom now, all bunching up, 2 from Tolman, sandwiched between the 2 HHC cars.
Yes, McLaren do run a single make series for their customers, and yeah, this looks exactly like it.
Yes.
Yeah, the newbies HHC coming in to take on the experienced team of Tolman. It does look pretty cool with 2 cars, 4 cars, all with very similar liveries there. It looks almost, yeah, very works out there.
That's Luke Williams at the back of the pack. Now, I'm not suggesting that Callum Poynton is trying to stack them into the clutches of his teammate, but it might just help, because if Luke Williams, ex-Formula Ford racer, can get up there and attack, that might just take some of the pressure off Callum Poynton. And we've only got 13 minutes to go, so it might have just slightly lulled up front because the lead gap is going up. But GT4 is getting very, very busy indeed. In second place, Phil Keane is getting away outright from Bradley Ellis as they're going through in 4th. He just saw Johnny Cocker go through shot, now ahead of the Josh Price GT4 Aston that's gone a lap down. So the GT3 teams juggling their way through the traffic. Number 3 BMW is Ben Green, relatively inexperienced driver, but very, very impressive indeed. And he is not that far off Johnny Cocker. So Ben Green here, David, is doing a good job.
Yes, I sat in car with Ben and the first time he ever drove a race car. So he's my little protege. So it's really cool to see him graduate to the big boys, the GT3 League. He's worked really well with his teammate Dominic Paul this weekend, and I think that between the two of them, they're a very competitive package. Along with Century, they really know what they're doing as well. So it's not the strongest circuit for the BM, so I think their game tactic this weekend is just to score points, stay out of trouble. But when we get to the likes of Silverstone and Spa, that's when it really come into the M6's advantage.
It's a mighty car. Whoops, and he has to get past Luke Williams there, who gets muscled out onto the grass. So that cost him time within GT4, as we've also now got Ellis and Cocker nose to tail. So this is game on for 3rd overall as they're getting up through the GT4 lead battle. That briefly takes the pressure off Callum Poynton as they come across the timing line. So now, can Johnny Cocker make a move for 3rd place as they dive down towards Old Hall? No, he can't. Yes, he can. He thinks about it on the inside line there. He was given racing room by Bradley Ellis. It didn't work for Johnny Cocker, but he's still there. Goes one side and then the other as they head towards Cascades. Is there a gap on the inside? No, there is not, but look behind them because Ben Green is almost back up with them.
Yes, Ellis is really struggling at the moment. He's the cork in the bottle, I think. Yeah. Cocker's got the pace, but again, catching's one thing, passing's another. These are big GT3 cars. Let's see what Cocker's got.
So as they come then down towards Shell Oil's corner, Johnny Cocker attacking and defending. Life has got doubly difficult.
Yes, it has, hasn't it? And I think that Johnny Cocker realised that was the last sort of big knot of traffic they were likely to catch for the remainder of the race. They'll catch maybe little pockets of GT4 activity, but that was the GT4 lead battle. That was a real hammering that Aston Martin took over the curbs of Britons, and it has not helped Bradley Ellis' exit. So once again, Johnny Cocker forces the third place car to defend. Down the hill on the brakes, a bit of a touch under braking there. Not enough to fully unsettle either car, but that will have certainly caught Bradley Ellis' attention through the right at Knickerbrook. Good exit from here is vital to get the run up the steep climb through Clay Hill. Of course, Johnny Cocker will all the time in the back of his mind know that those two Century Motorsport BMWs are not a million miles behind him. If he goes for a move and it doesn't work, or worse still, there's a bit of contact, they will be right with him and up the inside like the proverbial rat up a drain pipe. So Johnny Cocker needs to be careful here. Fourth place is not a bad result, but when there's a chance of a podium, he's going to have to go for it, isn't he?
Yeah, he can't afford to sit there because he'll be under attack from Ben Green, and then Jack Mitchell, who is experienced in a short space of time GT racer both here and in Asia. He's closing up as well. So third, fourth, fifth and sixth. There's the queue with only 10 minutes to go now, heading through Old Hall Corner. In GT4, it's still Callum Poynton ahead at the moment, with Josh Smith behind him in that McLaren battle. But for the race lead, 8 seconds, suggesting that Seb Morris has cracked this, despite the pace we've seen out of Phil Keane over the rest of the weekend. There's the McLaren GT4 battle. Number 4 is Josh Smith. Just up the road ahead is Callum Poynton. This will be a great debut for HHC with its GT4 McLaren programme, if it is a victory for the 57 car. Callum Poynton leads at the moment, and Dean McDonald did the first stint. He's in the pits with Andy J.
That's right, yes, I'm with Dean here, and Dean, you are living every second of this and basically hating it, aren't you?
I am hating it massively. I think we've got, what, 10 minutes to go, just under 10 minutes, but yeah, it was a good first stint. Callum's doing great out there. So yeah, we've only not got long to hold on.
I mean, I'm nervous stood next to you because you're absolutely feeling this. It's really hot out there. Clearly, McLarens are owning this track right now. Obviously, you had to get through the Mustangs, but that didn't seem to be too much of an issue.
Yeah, the Mustangs, that's a different story. Yeah, we'd done one when the GT3 spun at the second chicane, managed to get up the inside of one there, so that was good. And then approaching the second one, it seemed to be like just throwing at a dummy here and there. And luckily, he started to miss a few corners, slide a bit wide, and managed to get up the inside. But it was far from easy. But yeah, the pace felt good when I was behind him, and I'm just looking for that opportunity, and I'm glad we got it.
Just under 10 minutes away from top step. How does it feel?
Frightening a little bit, but I just wish they'd put the flag out right now. I can't wait any longer.
Good luck, mate. Thank you. Appreciate it.
David, you've been in this situation. You're powerless. You're in the pit lane. You're hoping that your co-driver doesn't make a mistake. Is it as agonising as everybody makes it sound?
Yeah, you've just got no control. You have to have full trust in your teammate. With it being the first round of the year, it's a new driver combination.
Yes.
I'm sure that they want to drive with each other. That's why they've come together. But at the same time, they've not had a huge amount of time to work with each other and know their strengths and weaknesses, how they're going to get on, etc. So yeah, it really is. You're in the race, but not in the race, and it's a very odd feeling.
Very much in the race here is Johnny Cocker, because he's crawling all over the back of Bradley Ellis again for third place. Actually, the BMWs have dropped back a little, but Bradley Ellis is making this Aston Martin a very wide car indeed. It's the Optimum Motorsport run, Aston, and you can see Johnny Cocker is looking for a way past, but right now, out of these two champions, it's Bradley Ellis, Andy, that has just got the upper hand.
Yes, perhaps in track position, but you could argue the Lamborghini looks the quicker of the two cars, but as we keep saying, it's not easy to overtake here. We've got, unfortunately, the KTM Expo of Track Focus. That was being driven by Sean Cooper. Not a particularly good day for the relatively local team. They're based out of Ellesmere Port, which is not a million miles away from Oulton Park. And unfortunately, Sean Cooper and Mike McCollum, who have plenty of experience racing in various endurance championships together, they rarely have a look at Oulton Park, unfortunately, and that appears to be the case again today.
So the KTM Crossbow is, I'm afraid, not on target. It is out of the race, but fingers crossed will be back for race 2. Now, what else is going on in GT4? Well, we've got the regrouping Mustangs, some BMWs and Mercedes all squabbling amongst themselves, heading now towards the right-hander at Druids. The BMW there, you can see, at the back of the group, but trying to make some more progress up is the 15 Mustang. So Seb Prio is at the wheel of it now. The car delayed in the pit window, but as I say, fighting back. But it's just great to see all the variety you get in GT4. 6 minutes are on the clock, and what have you got? 6 in a line, pretty much, pouring uphill with also the TF Sport Aston trying to forge a way through.
I think that's Nicky Team, isn't it, who's trying to just pick up whatever points he can, and that is getting very busy indeed. All around him, a sea of GT4 cars in front and GT4 cars behind him fighting for position as well. Nicky will be grateful just to get out of this particular hornet's nest, I think. One more car to try and find a way past. That's the 35 Optimum car of Jack Butel, former single-seater racer, of course. And Jack dutifully stays out of the way, and Nicky can find a way through. We're back on board, though, with the 42 car that was started by Mark Kimber. Now Jacob Mathieson on board through this very quick left-hander at Island Bend. Very easy to go completely wrong through there, but they keep it on the island. The 15 automatic Mustang is in there too. This battle for third place, though, it keeps threatening action, doesn't it? And Johnny Cocker, he keeps showing his nose. He closes, falls back, closes, falls back. Just can't seem to find a way through. And David's running out of time, isn't he?
He is, and what's also interesting, other David, is the way that the BMWs aren't staying in the mix. You know, they were good in the traffic, but now that the road is clear, they don't seem to have the pace, and they've fallen away again.
Yeah, they're falling back consistently as well, so it's clearly, I know Jack and Ben are very close, very similar on the data and the times from qualifying, so yeah, maybe the BM's just not quite managing its tyres as well as the cars ahead. So yeah, be interested to see if they can maybe pick up some pieces. So we'll see in these final 4 minutes.
Indeed, yeah, 4 minutes to go. Looking down the GT4 ranks here, so as the cars come down towards Lodge Corner once more. 77 Michael Broadhurst versus Seb Prio. It's Mercedes versus Mustang, which is another excellent battle. Sawing away at the wheel, turn right, the road drops away, you climb up dearly over the timing line now, so you'll have the Mercedes through, Michael Broadhurst with Seb Prio. There they are, the two of them absolutely together. They're 22nd and 23rd overall. Seb Prio making that change, Andy Prio's son, from single-seater racing into GT cars, and looking for a way past the GT4 spec Mercedes. And there's half a gap at Cascades. Can he go for it? Yes, he can. Elbows out. There's a bit of a rub, a bit of a lead. He's sideways, and Prio's off the road, heading for the tyres. Bang! You saw it coming, you felt it, and there, with just under 4 minutes on the clock, the Mustang headbutts the tyre barrier.
Well, that was unfortunate, wasn't it? That was the sort of move we may have seen his father pulling down at Cascades over the years, but sadly the end result, not what Seb was after at all. Here's the replay from the outside. David Pittard, talk us through it.
He's shown his nose, and he's not quite got to the apex and claimed the corner. Broadhurst has given him enough room, but then it just, they clatter wheels, and it's sent him luckily to the tyres, not the arm coat there. But yeah, it's funny you should say he was an ex-single-seater driver, because that was very much a move of his dad, a touring car.
Yes, indeed.
Driver there.
Well, he's got going again, but lost places. His dad would say, that's not one of my moves, because I'd have made it work. But I know what you mean. Seb Prio is back in the race, albeit badly delayed. And there, the race leader, oh so nearly, tripping over the same back marker, because there, Michael Broadhurst got in the way. Now, the gap has come down to 3.8 seconds. This might be down to traffic, and of course a yellow flag potentially. But even so, Phil Keane now, with just under 3 minutes, is closer. But I still think Seb Morris is driving within himself here.
Yeah, there was quite a big knot of traffic that he's just had to deal with as well there, and Seb's an experienced racer as well, knows that there's no point throwing it off in the final few minutes when you do have an advantage. Having said that, Phil will no doubt sense a potential opportunity to apply a bit more pressure, and it's not like Seb is going to miss that car in his mirrors. If it does start to get any closer, he'll very much know about it, and that could prove to be a bit of a distraction.
And the gap is down again by nearly a second, so it's down to 3 seconds now between Morris and Keane, and we've got 2 more laps left in the race, I would suggest, looking at the clock, as you ride on board again with number 42, which is the Jakob Mathieson BMW M4. He's onto Lakeside Straight, down towards Island Bend. It's been interesting watching the way the GT3 cars have, at times, David, struggled through the traffic, as though either there's a lot going on in GT4 or there's a lack of awareness, or a bit of both.
Yeah, I think you just got to be patient, really. This circuit being so thin, so narrow, and with the GT4s enthralled in their own battle, you just want to pick a safe opportunity. And there's a few parts on this track where the track meanders from left to right, up Clay Hill, for example. that's a big area of indecision for both overtaker and overtakee as well.
Okay.
So, yeah, you just have to err a bit more caution and therefore potential a little bit more delay, but you've still got 4 wheels of the wagon by the end of it.
Indeed, so Michael Broadhurst, Scott Mulvin and Jakob Mathieson all squabbling in GT4. In the meantime, for third in GT3, it remains Bradley Ellis ahead of Johnny Cocker. Ben Green is next. 6th overall is Jack Mitchell. Johnny Adam is 7th. Adam Christodoulou is 8th. Marco Sorensen is 9th. This star-studded entry that we have. Seb Morris, then you can see there's one back marker between himself and Phil Keane. The gap is certainly coming down. Can Seb Morris hang on for one more lap? There's less than a lap time left in the race now as he comes up, breaks the beam, goes through down onto the 35th lap, the last lap of the race. There goes Phil Keane. The gap's down again, Andy, 2.4 seconds.
Phil Keane's are coming, but has he got time? This is the final lap of the race then. I don't think there's too much more traffic for him to deal with either. They're not a million miles behind the GT4 class leaders on circuit. Whether they'll get there before the checkered flag, I know not. This is the 3rd place battle overall, and in GT3, which actually has just over a lap's worth of racing still to go. It's still Bradley Ellis in the Optimum Motorsport Aston Martin ahead. Here is your podium fight in GT4, and once again, it is nose to tail. Now, I did notice this out of the window a moment or two ago. The 3rd placed GT4 McLaren, and that's the Lewis Proctor car, smoking quite heavily. Now, I can't quite tell if that's bodywork or engine related, David Pittard, but that'll be a concern in the final few laps, won't
It's
it?
on fire.
There's flame as well.
Ooh, they need to stop that quickly after the flag. Being a racing driver, I'm sure he'll send it to the end, but yeah, he needs to stop that car ASAP.
So that is, as you say, the Lewis Proctor car in strife. There in the traffic is the race leader, and he's pulled it up already. I think he's realised that there's a problem, and so out of 3rd in GT4 goes Lewis Proctor, and the fire marshals will attend. Checkered flag this time. Seb Morris is going to hang on to what has been a very impressive drive, started by Rick Parfitt. He will bring it home. He's being chased by Phil Keane, but it's not often that Phil Keane is beaten at Oulton Park. It's going to happen today, and he's still stuck in the traffic. Then he's giving it everything he's got, but he's got to try and get past Josh Price. There is the smoky Tolman McLaren, but with a corner to go, Seb Morris then in number 31 Bentley. A great start to his programme with JRM, and with Rick Parfitt once more is going to win at Oulton Park. There is the checkered flag. Round 1 of the British GT Championship won by the Bentley of Seb Morris and Rick Parfitt, with 2nd Phil Keane and Adam Ballard. Not a bad debut in GT3 for Adam, is it? And then for 3rd place, is it going to be Bradley Ellis and Ollie Wilkinson, who's also stepping up into GT3? There they are, but right up behind Bradley Ellis is Johnny Cocker. Is Johnny going to preserve 4th place, or is he going to fire it up the inside at the last corner? Let's see. There's back markers ahead. I think Bradley Ellis has just about done enough, but Johnny Cocker tries to get a good run coming out of Lodge. They're going to be nose to tail, heading up towards Deer Leap, heading up towards the timing line of the checkered flag. It is going to be the Aston Martin that's just ahead, but the gap at the end was 0.145 of a second. Bradley Ellis hangs on to 3rd ahead of Johnny Cocker. 5th goes the way of Ben Green. Jack Mitchell 6th, Johnny Adam is 7th, Adam Christodoulou is 8th, 9th Marco Sorensen. But that race just seemed to fall into the laps, didn't it, of Rick Parfitt and Seb Morris. I know they were helped by the skirmishes earlier on, but even after the pit stops, they were just way up the road.
Yeah, great pace, and we were all sort of anticipating that Phil Keane was going to be able to start reeling the Bentley in fairly rapidly. It looked as though he was for a few laps, but then really good long-run pace for Seb Morris. We heard his teammate Rick saying that he wasn't even on fresh tyres. They were the qualifying tyres from yesterday as well, so all the more impressive, and then managing the gap towards the end as well. A superb drive, and there's been a lot of hype surrounding that particular team, that particular driver lineup, and often sometimes we don't always see that hype delivered upon, but definitely today a great result for them and the perfect start to their season.
And a perfect start for HHC Motorsport, Charlie Kemp and Jody Hemming's team with McLaren. Charlie wasn't sure what to make really of his chances this morning, but it's going to be a maiden GT4 win then for the HHC Motorsport McLaren. Across the timing line to win comes Callum Poynton and Dean McDonald. Dean finally could breathe a sigh of relief. There's a huge amount of cheering going on from the HHC just next to our commentary box down in the pit lane, and a very narrow margin of 1.3 seconds over the surviving Tolman McLaren of James Dorlin and Josh Smith. And 3rd in GT4 in the end will be the 2nd HHC McLaren of Tom Jackson and Luke Williams after the demise of the 2nd Tolman car. So an awful lot to talk about, an awful lot of great racing going on. David, we've got knew where to look, really, GT3 or GT4?
Well, hopefully that sets the tone for the year, because that was a pretty mega race. Yeah, it had all the right ingredients for it. Mega drivers, mega cars, mega circuit, mega weather. And I think in both classes it really provided. A shame for the guys that DNF'd, but yeah, hopefully they can get the cars rebuilt, ready for race 2 later on today. And yeah, we go again in a few hours' time.
Indeed. So if you're wondering why some of them are going all over the grass, it's not because the drivers have lost concentration, it's that they're trying to get pick up on the tyres, which helps to keep the weight of the car up as they get to the post-race scrutineering checks. Well, what a great drive by Seb Morris, but he was certainly given a good car and a good advantage by the first stint driver, Rick Parfitt. He can celebrate with Andy J.
Let me see if I can grab him. Seb, fresh out the car. Yes! There's a happy boy. Hello, Sunshine. How you doing? You must feel phenomenal.
Hey, it's good to be back. We just carried on where we left off.
Well, you put the band back together, and it's really paying off for you. I mean, Rick gave you a fabulous lead, and you had to hold on because you had old tyres.
Yeah, I mean, we've been weak on the BOP this weekend, but you know, we're not blaming anyone. It's the first time we've run this new car around here. The old one used to be blistering, so we struggled in qualifying, but we just said, you know what, let's just take what gets thrown at us this weekend, and we have. And I just said to Rick, you know, you've got to be a bit far behind if there is a crash, and there was one, unfortunate for the team, Parker, Bentley and the Lambo, but you know, we've got to be there to take the win.
I've been told you have to get to the podium, so congratulations, Sunshine. I want to see a dance on that top step.
Somebody does that. I'm not sure how many other takers there are for that, but anyway, well done, Seb Morris and Rick Parfitt after a great drive. Let's confirm the result. Rick Parfitt and Seb Morris win round 1 of the British GT Championship from GT3 newbie Adam Ballon and Phil Key. The gap at the end, 3.2 seconds. Ollie Wilkinson, great drive by him, with Brad Ellis to be third ahead of Sam DeHaan and Johnny Cocker. Dominic Paul fifth ahead of Ben Green. They got back ahead, of course, of the Adrian Wilmot, Jack Mitchell BMW on the pit stop. 7th for Graham Davidson and Johnny Adam. More to come from them, I'm sure, later. 8th, Richard Neary and Adam Christodoulou. 9th, Andrew Howard and Marco Sorensen. And the top 10 rounded out by Mark Farmer and Nicky Team. The sole GTC car of Michael Igo and Adam Wilcox next. The GT4 winners, 12th, Dean McDonald and Callum Poynton, ahead of the first of the Tolman McLarens of James Dorlin and Josh Smith. And then it was Tom Jackson and Luke Williams 14th, within 15th place. 4th in GT4, Scott Maxwell and Seb Prio in the better of the two Multimatic Motorsports Mustangs. So they, despite bouncing off the tyre stack, came home in 15th place. Then Patrick Kimmel and Josh Price ahead of Steve McCulley and Matty George. Calvin Fletcher and Martin Plowman in 18th place, from Graham Johnson and Michael O'Brien ahead of Conor O'Brien and Jack Butel. Mark Murphy and Michael Broadhurst were ahead of Mark Kimber and Jakob Mathieson. Nick Jones and Scott Malden going to the Team Parker Mercedes for this year. The rest of the order you can see. And despite the fact that we seem to have a very drama-filled race, we actually didn't lose that many of them, did we? With 29 getting to the end. Phil Keane is with Andy J.
You nearly caught us mid-conversation then. Just catching up with Phil now. Phil, maybe if you had just... Well, no, there's nothing you could do, is it? 7 seconds lead. I was thinking, is there any way you could have done it? Because you're the king of this place, but are you satisfied with P2?
Yeah, I mean, we started 6th. Adam did a good job, so to finish P2, we're over the moon. The guys did a great job in the pit stop to jump us to positions, and really, it's so difficult to overtake around here. We were just, you know, glad to have some clear air, follow Seb round and score some points in the first round.
I mean, there must have been a few moments you knew that Seb was on old tyres. He had traffic in front at times. You must have thought you closed the gap for sure. You must have thought, I've got a chance.
It catches one thing, overtaking's another. So we'd have, you know, if I could have got on behind him, I would have done, put him under pressure, but he's not going to make any mistakes. So, you know, you just sort of settle for second and try your best, you know.
P6 to P2, you'd have taken it beforehand?
Definitely, yeah.
Well done, mate. Cheers. Happy days.
Thank you.
So Phil Keane, another day, another Lambo, another circuit, just like a USB stick. You plug him in and he delivers. And let's see what he can do from the front of the grid in the second race. We'll try and get to the podium. It's a very busy day at Oulton Park with lots of sports car and single-seater racing and saloons as well from the Volkswagen Racing Cup, which you can see on the live stream over the course of the day. But there, the SRO officials rounding up as many of the drivers as possible to get the podium underway. Let's have a look at some of the highlights of that race, which began with the field pouring its way through Old Hall Corner, and perhaps against expectation, everyone survived. There was drama though at Britain's early on, and then poor old Mark Farmer had this big rotation going through Old Hall Corner. People scattered, But Ryan Ratcliffe owned up. He made a mistake, cannoned off Ian Logie, put both of them out of the race, and with Ian Loggie's car with broken suspension in the end, stranded on the circuit. The safety car came out. Rick Parfitt inherited the race lead and on the restart stormed away. The battles raged on behind and he was able to make good his escape. GT4 was also offering up plenty of drama with number 42, the Mark Kimber BMW, in and amongst it. Damage on the back of number 9. Adrian Wilmot brought the car in. Very nearly a change of lead within GT4, but it didn't quite work at the time for Dean McDonald. His time would come, however, as 31 blasted back into the race and then ended up in strife with the traffic. Seb Morris had taken over from Rick Parfitt, bounced off number 15, the Scott Maxwell Seb Prio car, which would have more woes later in the race as well. And after the pit stops in GT3, it was a battle between Seb Morris and Phil Keane. In GT4, it was Tolman versus HHT. It was all very McLaren. There was a great battle for third overall as well. Bradley Ellis versus Johnny Cocker. Seb Prio bounced off the side of Michael Broadhurst's Mercedes and found the tyre barrier coming out of Cascades. He was able to rejoin, albeit delayed, but up towards the end of the race there was no stopping Seb Morris as he worked his way through the traffic, and the JRM Bentley Continental GT3 taking honours in round 1 of the British GT Championship to the delight of the JRM team. And I think now just about everybody has been rounded up, ready for the podium. With the top 3 in GT3 and the top 3 in GT4 and a GTC winner and a winning team and gentlemen drivers and AMs and silvers and everything else, Andy. It takes some orchestrating, this, doesn't it? But anyway, the drivers making their way forward, and Bradley Ellis and Ollie Wilkinson take third. Phil Keane and Adam Ballon make their way forward for second.
Anthony Seb Morris, Julia. Hand over the trophy. Finishers. Bradley's been there before. For Ollie, it's a great result this to finish in third place. So Adam Ballon moving up into GT3 on the podium here last year in GT4. Phil Keane's used to being on the podium. A round cheer from Seb Morris as the winners. To ask them at the top of the podium might be asking a bit much, but have a go. You can all get up there. And there we are.
So drivers, very happy drivers, up on the podium at the end of what was a very, very entertaining opening round of the 2019 British GT Championship. Plenty more racing to come throughout the rest of the day, though. And we are looking forward to that as the camera gets a soaking from the champagne down on the podium there. But lots of very happy drivers. Fantastic victory that for Rick Parfitt and Seb Morris, and people scattering out of the way.
Well done to Adam Ballon as well, but
so the drivers assemble now, and they've got there very rapidly indeed. It's sometimes like herding cats at the end of a race. Racing drivers very rapid on the circuit, but often not that rapid at getting back. So we are preparing for our next race momentarily, and more Ginetta action on its way in baking hot sunshine here at Oulton Park. Delighted to see a packed crowd on hand as well for this season opener that, because of its relatively early place on the calendar, can sometimes be suffering at the hands of inclement weather, but that's not an issue we've had this weekend, that's for sure. It's been glorious all weekend, really, from when the teams were setting up at the back end of the week, Thursday and Friday. We had qualifying racing on Saturday, and they had a day off yesterday to soak up the sun, and some of them went and took in some of the local tourist attractions, and back to some hard work again here today for a day full of racing action. So, the cars then assembling on the grid.
With Josh Smith, Formula Ford racer, now moving into GT racing. We'll let you get on the top of the podium in a minute, Josh.
And the green flag then will wave.
Can you all squeeze up on the top of the podium, guys, please? There we are.
Perfect.
Are we going to have more champagne spraying, or are you going to take it with you? Right, here we go. and their capacity.
We're doing this to card.
Right.
Have you got card on?
Yeah. Recording.
You coming in?
Okay.
You happy? Lads, wow. One race down, top step. How does it feel?
Amazing. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, being in the work at the start of the Mustang, just managing qualifying, thinking that you're going to have to be groundbreaking, but Dean will go down and got us on side. Got it in front of them all, and like, so you pass it on to me, now I'm going to bring it home. And I come out of the pits after the bench stop, and I was straight into the car. I didn't know where I was on the track, but it was 4, 6, anywhere. I was on C1, kept my head down, slowly kept going away. Little mistakes, ended up bringing them back a bit again, but just keep carrying on. You can tell we're working as a team and pulling this in, but good
action for the Ginetta G40 Cup up next, their second race of the weekend, their second of 3. It's a triple header for both of the Ginetta Championships in action here today, with the G40 car forming the basis for both of them. But this, the G40 Cup, a step below the GT5 Challenge that we've already seen out racing earlier on today, for some slightly less experienced drivers, but the racing tends to be equally as exciting. The race yesterday was won by Alistair Barkley from Daniel Morris in second place and Rob Keogh.